So here we are in a part two of the Strange Motion Way podcast. I'm your host, Tim Strange, along with
Carrie Strange.
And this is our part two with Larry Dixon. We had to pause. And so we're just going to do week two, part two, where we left off on the part one. He is just now done with Perdome Racing. And now you're driving for another great tuner guy, Alan Johnson at Al-Anabi.
Yeah, it was a great team. You know, I mean, they obviously the Al-Anabi, the country of Qatar was the one who funded the team for Alan and got his team back in business again and hired all the Army crew guys that were with Alan, and then they hired me to drive the one car in Top Fuel, and then had Del Worsham, two-car team, to put a team together, and Del drive the funny car.
And how many years did you drive for Al-Anabi?
I ended up driving for 3 years there. Second in the points, first in the points, and fourth in the points. The 3 seasons drove for him. So that it was good.
Title with them, right? Or third title, I mean.
Yeah. It was that second season was, as the first season, getting the band together and going out there. As the season progressed, it was kind of like, it was building. It was going in the right direction. I mean, we finished second the first season, missed the championship by a couple points, and then started right out of the gate and led the points from won the Winter Nationals in Pomona and led the points for the entire season. Went to 12 finals and won 12 races, which I think that record is still win every race that you're in the final with. So it was one Indy again. That was awesome. You don't enjoy it as much while you're doing it, because it's like, it's fun and it's racing, but you're working, like you're trying to produce and make sure you're covering your end. And it's like, okay, we won that race. Yeah, great. Now let's go to the next one. It's like you're trying to pick everything up and I guess pillage, to a degree while you get everything you can while you're hot, because you don't stay hot forever.
Was there any difference of having a big sponsor like that from another country language barrier and stuff, but I suppose they're not probably involved in the day-to-day because neither was your beer sponsor and stuff like that to a point, right?
Yeah, no, they weren't involved at all. I mean, it never really seemed that a budget was ever discussed. I mean, it's that was never a factor in any decision making. It's, hire whoever you need to hire, buy whatever parts you need, and go out there and race. And it's the first 2 seasons, it was a Top Fuel car and a funny car. And then the third season, the last season I drove, they did 2 dragsters. And then Dell, they shut the funny car down, and then they ran 2 dragsters. So that's the first time that I had a teammate in the same category. And then Alan was tuning on Dell's car, and Jason McCullough was tuning on my car. Dell won the championship that year. We finished 4th. So still good. But the team, they after the second season, we won 12 races, 12 out of 24, and the Sheik, he wanted to win. He's kind of probably more of a Formula One type mindset, from being over there. It's like, so like if you won 12 races, so if we have 2 cars, we should win 24 races.
Seems simple math. Yeah.
You laugh, and he didn't laugh. Like, he's serious. So, yeah. So, and as it turned out, I think Dell won 8 and we won 4. So we still won 12 races. But, but the team got divided. Then you shut the funny car team, and, half the guys that were on our team, the championship team, went over to Dell's team. So it kind of divided the team. So, realistically, we should have only won 12. Like, it isn't like we doubled the technical, resources, I guess, from that standpoint. But
You
it
probably
was still
broke it
fun.
because losing part of your team, you guys all kind of get to know each other and you know each other's ways and you become a family. And when you split them out, then you got to create that family again.
It's a different dynamic, and again, I think a lot of the guys, I'm gonna include me at like a lower level, like you have white collar and blue collar, and I'm gonna say the blue collar crowd is like, wow, it was just a different dynamic. Weird, I don't know. So wasn't as much fun.
At that time, if people don't remember, Al-Anabi, that sheet, he threw money a lot of places in drag racing. There was pro mod cars and motorcycles, and I mean, he helped.
Oh, yeah.
He did a lot of stuff to help drag racing for those years that he was involved. He's still involved some, right? Because they still run pro mod or two, don't they?
Yeah, and I'm going to say, for a long period of time, I'm going to say, the last dozen years, he's always kept Frank Manzo, because Frank Manzo was, driving the alcohol funny car for Al-Anabi, and so he was involved. And then when he retired from that, then he kept Frank and as a crew chief on his personal pro mod car, and so he's always kept Frank employed, and then always racing a pro mod car all the years. Like with Mike Castellano driving, they won the championship a year or two ago. So that's always been going on. And then over the last year or two, I'm seeing a lot more Al-Anabi funded, sponsored, at least from a paint job standpoint. His presence is expanding, I think, from just the 1 or 2 cars that they might have had in the, over the last dozen years.
Yeah, and then like over there, they built a racetrack over, and then some of the guys, as I follow, like in the off season here, they'd send some of them guys over to put on exhibition and run over there in the off season in the States.
Yeah, when that track first got done, I went over there and actually, brought the championship trophy and presented it to the Sheik and saw the racetrack. And I mean, the track wants for nothing. I mean, they race 8th mile over there, so it's all concrete. Got nice. It's a beautiful facility, and they have like, I'm going to say permanent buildings on where that you have your shop at the track, and then you don't need a truck and a trailer. I mean, it's like literally you just tow it out of your shop and go to the start line and go race. So it's quite Qatar Race Club, QRC, and like you can Google map it. Qatar Driving Club or Race Club or something like that, and you can see the racetrack on Google Maps. It's a beautiful facility right outside of Doha in Qatar.
Yeah, so, very cool. Yeah. So then you're done at Al-Anabi. Then what are you doing after that? Because you said you drove for them 3 years.
3 years, yeah. So then just kind of. For a couple of years, trying to figure out what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to do, and then really, you're kind of aging out as a hired driver more or less, because it's like I'm in my, I'm in how old? Like I'm gonna say I was in my 40s for sure. You're closing in on 50. At that point, and so you drove for a Rapisarda, the Australian team, which I still drive for down in Australia, but up here drove a few races here. Drove
down there. The event that you go to in Australia.
Yeah, last month. So I mean, I'll go down there. It seems like over the past half dozen years, maybe once a year, maybe, and and I've won, a few races down there. It's you don't race there all the time, and but the Rapisardas, they're based in Sydney, and when the events during the Sydney race, he'll bring out a third car. He's got two cars that each one of his sons crew chiefs on, and then he'll have a third car his son-in-law will tune on, and then I'll get in the third car, and they'll run it at that event. Yeah, we were able to sneak one in last month, so that was kind of fun. But in the States here, drove for the Rapisarda, drove for the Dotes, Dexter Tuttle, and then trying to figure it out. And then Bob Vandegrift ended up, he had J.R. Todd driving for him, and J.R. Todd got hired to replace, I want to say, maybe it was David Grubnick on the dragster, I think maybe over there, and so there was a immediate availability to jump in a car because I want to say the season was already started. So I ended up driving for Vandegrift for about a year and a half. The rest of 14 and all of 15. Finished fourth in the points. Went to six. Here's the polar opposite of Al-Anabi. Went to 6 finals and didn't get one win out of 6 finals. It was crazy. So did that, and then it was like, so what am I going to do after that? And it's like, I really need to own my own thing if I'm doing it, but sponsorship's tough. And then that's kind of like, honestly, it was right during then, that would have been the beginning of 2016, and that was the whole idea, where the idea to develop the 2-seater and then bring in.
Okay, before we go on the 2-seater, so you've still got behind there, you've got a full-on normal, quote, normal, nitro car back there. That
traditional top fuel car, yes.
If there was sponsorship, but then in the last few years, a couple people, if I remember right, have basically rented it to get a licensing and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, they'll end up funding, to bring the car out, and it's not like renting, like they take it away and then bring it back. It's like we basically provide everything. Sit in the seat, and I've mentored a few guys, licensed a few guys, and then they've gone to NHRA events with it. We're not, you're probably right at, a top 10, top 12 team, with the money that they're spending, to be able to go out there. But you get a guy qualified, and, if things fall your way, you might be able to go a round or two. So that's kind of all they're spending to do. Yeah. So
there's a simple formula, isn't there? How fast you want to go is how much money you got to spend.
100%. I remember, and this is going back a long time ago. I want to say in the 90s when Snake first added a funny car to the deal, and he had Jim Dunn helping him. And at the time, his Jim Dunn said for every position, and maybe it was like for 10th place, maybe you start out with $1 million, and if you want to be in 9th place, it needs to add $100,000. And then the whole idea was, it's like, well, to be able to finish first, you needed to spend $2 million, and that was, way back in the early 90s or something. So, but how fast you want to go, how much you're going to spend.
Yeah, and what people can't see, like we say, there's a car there ready to go. You've got parts, you've got engine blocks, and just over there on the one wall there's a full semi-rig there. Like, you're set up and ready to go. If somebody wants to rent it, or if somebody wants to drive the car, full-on semi-rig, hooked up, tools, everything. If somebody brings the money, you guys can go racing for a full season.
Yeah, and it just, when we did the 2-seater, you needed to make yourself really self-sufficient on that side. And then it seemed smart to have a top fuel car, turnkey, to be able to, if somebody called up, they wanted a car and wanted to go, you got it, but it was also like if somebody got in a two-seater and it's like, wow, that was fun. Like I might want to try that myself, and we have a car we could do that with. So, because to run the two-seater, you need all of that. So like, I'm going to say, like it doesn't take that much more to just have another turnkey chassis, basically put a drivetrain in it and send it.
Okay, so let's.
Wasn't there some drama?
Yeah, so there was a little bit of drama about this two-seater car. That's why I said at the beginning, not associated with NHRA. I remember when you debuted it. It was the PRI show. I still remember exactly where it was, sitting in that hall. PRI. SEMA. Yeah. And so let's talk about some of that stuff that transpired because of this two-seater car.
All right, I'll try to have the real abbreviated version so we don't but really it was like, okay, so what am I going to do with my life? I'm not going to just be a hired driver anymore. I'm approaching 50 years old, so like what am I going to do? And it's like, what about why not a two-seater? It's like they got two-seaters in Formula One and IndyCar and NASCAR, and MotoGP even has a two-seater. Sprint cars, World of Outlaws has a two-seater. So it's like, why don't we have a two-seater? And it's like, we have drag racing has a two-seater, but it's just got a gas-powered engine, it goes 9 seconds in the quarter mile, and it's not like, I could buy a Hellcat off the show. I could buy a new Corvette off the showroom floor and go 8, what's a 9-second two-seater? That's not. Yeah. So it was like, wow, that would be neat. It's like, I wonder if that could actually be a possibility. So it was like, so I go to our chassis builder that builds our Top Fuel chassis, Murph McKinney, and I talked to him about it. He thinks it's an awesome idea. And I'm like, well, I need to know that this, if we're going to do this, that we can construct something and it's safe, so you kind of do a concept of what this car is going to look like, and then you actually build a computer model of it, and then you build a program, a FEA, finite infinite analysis, whatever. All I know is it costs $6,000 to build this program to be able to load this car on a computer and make sure that this car can be safe. And it was like, you load a traditional Top Fuel car on this computer, and it shows the hot spots in the tubing when the cars break in half. It shows that. So it's like, that's realistic. And then you build this two-seater car, and it doesn't have those hot spots. So I'm like, wow. So it's like, I actually have hard data that we could build a car that's actually safer. I like that. And then it's like, well, okay, how about insuring this? Because nobody's going to let you on a racetrack, unless this thing can actually be insured. So get with the insurance, the guys with the IndyCar experience, the guy run the two-seat experience, literally gave me an open book. They loved the idea. Anything we can do to help you. So it was like, so you start doing your due diligence, and then the insurance company is like, yeah, we'll insure it, but you can't race anybody. You can't go past the 8th mile with it, and you have to sit in the front seat. I can't sit in the back seat. I actually wanted to sit in the back seat because I thought that would be the total IMAX view of a Top Fuel car. Well, that ain't going to happen. So it's like, okay, so I'm in the front seat now. Okay, all right. So then I take all this data and all this information, and then I get I ask for a meeting with the president of NHRA. He's not the president anymore. He's still with the company. But because it's like, if they're not behind it, you're not going to be able to do anything with this. So I show him all this stuff, and he absolutely loves it. First words out of his mouth, I love it. So he's the one that's helping, and at the time when we're in this phase, he didn't give me approval of it, but they gave him and upper management gave me the green light to proceed. So I proceed. So I spend all of 2016 having this car constructed. I actually got it during the PRI show of 2016, but nobody knows it because I ain't showing it to anybody because it's like, this is my deal, like, so then we take the car and then all through 2017, we build it. We test it, like throughout the season, and we got it to where, we can make runs with this and we have a product that we can put on the racetrack. And then I end up getting with Traxxas. And that's how it ended up all lettered up in Traxxas. It was in their booth, and they had a contest that they were going to give away a ride in this Top Fuel car. And so then that's how we ended up debuting it at the SEMA show. And everybody in the world loved it, except maybe 3 people. and those 3 people, one of those 3 people worked in the legal department of NHRA. And so when NHRA was doing everything they were doing with me, they never checked with the legal department whether or not they would sign off on it. And so when the legal department didn't sign off on it, I was on an island by myself. So then that's when things got, that's when we, I guess, bumped heads or all that. And I didn't really understand it because it's like, well, gosh, like I've been talking to these guys for over a year on this stuff. I have all this correspondence, so it's not like it didn't happen. And it's like they'll make it right, not leave me hanging like I'm hanging. And then that's where it came. Well, we never told you we would approve it. And I'm like, yeah, but you also didn't tell me you're going to throw me out of the sport for doing it. And then that's how things got kind of ugly, and it's like, so I could clear my name if I cut this car up and I'm like, well, I'm not going to cut the car up because it's like, there's a lot of people that like this. And if I cut the car up, I'm just back being an unemployed, sponsorless team driver guy. So I kept the car. NHRA doesn't want to have anything to do with it, but there's a lot of racetracks that aren't involved with the NHRA. And so now I run the car. I mean, I've given over 50 rides with this car now. So I run it, and it's obviously not part of the show, so it doesn't get talked a lot about, and a lot of people don't see it, but it still goes. And I think where I'm at in my life, it's probably fine, because it's like, I don't think I want to be gone 24 weekends a year anymore. It's like I got kids, my youngest just graduated high school and he's wanting to start a racing career. And it's like, I think I'd rather do stuff with him than do stuff like this. So it's all, God always has a plan for everybody, and we don't always understand it, and I don't understand it, but I don't fight it. I'll figure it out, and this is part of the plan, and I'm going forward with it. So
there was a lot of rumors and all that, but you have a clean NHRA license. You could get in a car if you so choose. Like you say, you'd rather support your son, or if somebody wants to rent the car, that's where you are in your stuff. But you were telling me the other day that somebody almost hired you for a driver and they didn't believe you could get your license, so you renewed your license and you got it.
Yeah. So when all this stuff went down, I wasn't really excited about sending $150 in to get a license that then I'd have a license, but I still ain't got a job, like I just, and how all that went down, I really didn't, I think it could have got handled a lot better. I think I could have got, like, I guess if you were in NASCAR, we could have had a meeting amongst closed doors, and it didn't have to be paraded in the press. Everything that went down, I think we could have all talked about it, and I pleaded to have that happen, and I fell on deaf ears. And so yeah, I wasn't going to send any money in to renew my license at that time. And honestly, that's probably the last time. I don't wear my championship ring anymore, and I haven't worn it since then, because it's like, it's just, I don't know. I think that could have been handled better. And not that I deserve all this respect, but I just think they could have been nicer about how it went down. So that's that. But then a few years ago, this is probably during COVID, it was like, I had a team ask me about driving their car, and I'm like, well, yeah. Well, how about your relationship? How about get a license? I'm like, I can get a license anytime I want. Well, they didn't believe me. So it's like, okay, so like I sent in my $150 and I got my license, because I still drive, might not be at NHRA events, but I still drive, and so you can have an IHRA license and yet you can cross over to an NHRA. So that's basically what I ended up doing. And I've had my license valid, still current, since 2020. And I keep it more now to be able to sign off other drivers that license, which I've done a few times. And so that's kind of like where it's at. And then obviously, like we've entered a car over the past few years on multiple occasions, gone to NHRA events. And so like everybody, I'm going to say at the blue collar level at NHRA has been great with me. And then they feature, whoever's driving the car, and it ends up on the TV show, and I've done interviews, and like everything's good on that side. So I'm carrying on. I'm moving on, man. I ain't got no time to be hating on anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody in life. That ain't how my dad and mom raised me. So it's like, I'll just, I hang out with the people that want to hang out with me, and y'all don't. That's okay. I'm fine. I got a Dixon party of 5 that lives here in town that'll still have me. So it's good enough for me.
So tell everybody how they can reach out to you and the cost if they want to do a ride along.
So the ride along, which we kind of, for the amount of rides that we do, we kind of lock it into like July, August, September. It's where the weather's most forgiving, and we can do that. And we'll piggyback other events. Like I'm going to Dragway 42. There's like a nostalgia race in Ohio next month. All concrete, quarter-mile concrete walls. Like it's a beautiful racetrack. So we'll run the car there. And then Martin, Michigan in August, another beautiful facility. And then Martin, Michigan again in September. And so we'll run those races. I have slots that, people can pick out like what day and morning or night. We'll make a couple, 2-3 runs a day, and that's it. As far as getting a hold of me, I don't have this huge social media group that handles my social media. So it's like, if you ask me a question on, Instagram or X or Facebook, you'd get me answering it. And so, I'll have people email in, like info or Larry at, LarryDixonRacing.com. Like, hey, what's your schedule with the car and all that, or how much does it cost? Which, it is the top. And so then this usually, this really separates the people that really want to go for a ride and the ones that don't want to go for a ride. So a ride in a top fuel car is $12,500. Mm-hmm. So it's
very
definitely not
expensive to run one of those things, to fire up, the crew, the everything, the fuel, all that. It has not come cheap. It's not the price of a Happy Meal.
Absolutely not. It's not, and I tell people it's not a dumbed down Disneyland ride. It's a real top fuel car. They take it apart. We've got all the same equipment that goes in the 2-seater goes into the traditional top fuel car and go compete. It's like they tear it down between runs. It's not carbureted on gasoline going 9 seconds. I mean, it goes, our average like 8th mile, no matter what racetrack we go to, we're always the quickest car at the track. And that gives me a sense of satisfaction that whoever I'm giving a ride to, they're going to be the quickest and fastest at that track for that weekend. So it runs in the low threes in the eighth mile, which is quicker than pro mods, alcohol, funny cars, dragsters, nostalgia funny cars, nostalgia dragsters, jet cars, like whatever's running other than a real top, a single seat top fuel car or a single seat funny car, it's quicker than everything else. So if it's not quick enough for you, then get in the real one, do it yourself, kind of thing. But it's when I did
the path to get the license and to be able to drive the single seater is a little bit different than showing up with $12,500. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot more runs, which ends up costing more money, and it's like most of the everybody that goes for a ride isn't somebody that drives a top fuel car, because they'll drive their own car, but this, I've taken young gals, older gals, I've taken young guys, older guys, like I've taken a great example of one of my weekends that I ended up and this is a few years ago. We went to the Memphis track and it was still going, and I had set the dates and all that, and I had a guy call me up and wanted to go for a ride, and I didn't have any more rides to sell, and I said, let me check with my crew, because it's like and so I checked with my crew chief and all that. I put it on them. It's like, there's opportunity. Somebody else wants to go for a ride, but it's more work, and it's, and everybody's like, no, we'd like to see you be able to at least, like we're already there, what's another hour, couple hours. So we went ahead and did it. And I always try to get a background on the, like, why are you going for a ride? What do you, like all that. So the day this guy went for a ride, total contrast. They're both from Nashville. The one guy from Nashville owned a group of dealerships, sold all the dealerships. Him and his buddies are going to have a day, and like, so they flew the private jet that he owns from Nashville over to Memphis. It's probably in the air 6 minutes, like kind of thing. And they land, and then they make their runs. And this other guy from Nashville, he drives over mid-'80s Olds Calais. It's a beater, And so, like, I'm asking, like, what's the, are you bringing any friends with you? Oh no, I know nobody. I don't want anybody to know. I'm like, why not? He says, well, he goes, here's the deal. When you announced this car, and at the time it was $10,000, and he goes, I work at a grocery store, and he said, if I save $65 a week from working at the grocery store, in 3 years, I'll save enough money I can go for a ride. And that's exactly what he did. After the third year. Wow, right? Yeah. So he wants to go for a ride. And he doesn't want any of his friends to tell him how to spend his money, because he's driving this Olds Calais and he's working at a grocery store. And I'm like, oh my gosh, his run ended up being the quickest because of conditions. He ran it late. He was the quickest and fastest run. And I was just like, now there's two contrasts. I think they both had an awesome time, but they both dug it. And I just like, I thought it warmed me up that they were, and people that think that I'm making money at $10,000 or $12,000, y'all don't own a top fuel car because of all the things that you talk about. But to insure a car like this, let me tell you, like, if you don't own a 2-seat car, insurance is about a third of the cost. Like, if I don't make a lot of runs in a year, half of the cost goes towards the insurance policy. So like that $12,000 number, $6,000 of it's going towards insurance.
Yeah.
wow, now all of a sudden I only got $6,000 to be able to hire my crew, buy fuel, like, so, I don't have any staffing because there isn't enough budget for staffing. Like I'm the guy grinding the clutch discs, and I'm the one doing all of this stuff to make it work. I'm cutting the areas that I can cut back, it doesn't have to pay rent, that kind of stuff is how it's helping make this thing alive. But it needs to just pay for itself. If it don't pay for itself, then it don't run. So that's where all that's at. But it's been a ball. I've taken a lot of different people with a lot of different stories, and I'm so happy I got to do that with them, for them, like Daryl Russell, who I used to compete against, and he lost his life racing. Daryl's brother bought a ride for his dad and didn't tell his dad, and figured a way to get him to the racetrack without him even knowing. And then he shows up at the track and he goes for a ride. And Daryl's dad went in, and normally you make a run and the engine shuts off and you're coasting, and they're only a few feet behind me, and I can hear him screaming and yelling, and that was so awesome, and everybody's so amped up. And Daryl's dad didn't say anything. And then I was worried about him. I get out of the car. I'm like, you all right? Yeah. I said, you want to get out? No. And he rode in that seat all the way back, to the pits, and it was it's still emotional to me. He's sharing that moment with his son. Yeah. His son.
How he understood why he loved that. Yeah.
And that's and if I'm gonna get in trouble for doing stuff for people like that, whatever, I ain't. I'm above it. I ain't getting mad over it. I'm just gonna carry on and help out the people that want to go for riding a top fuel car.
Yeah, we got some friends. I don't think they do ride-alongs anymore. They run the Shockwave Nitro semi truck, or jet car, the jet truck, and they'll do them at drag races and stuff. And the last time air shows is when they like to give we were been part of some charity cruise ship things. I said that Aaron Hagar went on, and for a couple years they came on that cruise and they auctioned off for the charity a ride along. And they were like, well, we'll give you a schedule, you pick. And they're like, if you go to an air show, our course is long enough. He says, we usually go over 300 mile an hour. We can't on a drag strip because we can't get it going and get it stopped down. And he says, but an air show, and I don't think they do it anymore because it wasn't that truck, but their son was running a Dodge Dakota jet truck, and it exploded, and their son died driving it. So I think they stopped doing ride-alongs after that, because I'm sure their insurance says we don't want you to do ride-alongs anymore. It wasn't a thing that they did maybe twice a year that they gave a ride-along in the semi-truck. So
yeah, it's that's something that you have to really think long and hard about too. It's when you're giving somebody a ride, it's somebody else's life, and so you're trying to do everything and it's and I'm explaining to them the risks. It's bad things happen. We do everything in our ability to make that car as safe as possible, and have the nicest equipment, the best people working on it, and stuff like that. And sometimes bad things happen, and it's I go, the only thing I can tell you is I'm going along with you. It ain't like I'm leaving you out there all by yourself. I'm going along.
Not
so
like
it's
you're the guy pushing the guy off the bridge that's hooked to a bungee.
Right. So So it's I totally have their lives ahead of mine. First and foremost, I want them to have a blast. This is something fun, but there's a risk. And ultimately that's what NHRA, their legal department, had is the risk. They didn't want somebody to to have a heart attack in the back seat and somehow they're going to get sued.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Carrie deals with
okay.
insurance on all of their car events, racing events, and stuff. And insurance can cause. I mean, it's a necessary evil. There's a stool company online that I'm just going to Viper stool benches. They make these high end shop stools, and they posted a thing on their Instagram like a month ago or so and said, "Oh, we're trying to switch. They're growing, build a new facility. The huge company's just growing crazy, so they're trying to shop insurance, and they're like, here's our last 5 responses that we got denied of." And one was they're a creeper company and a bench shop stools with wheels, right? And they sponsor events. They don't sponsor a nitro car or drag cars, but they'll be like at an event, like, I don't know if they do, but say they're at LS Fest and there's drifting and burnout competitions. The one major insurance company said, we can't insure you because you're associated with people that do burnouts. I mean, that's what we're dealing with insurance company. Not a ride along or not a nitro or not a jet truck. It's like, oh, you're associated with people that do burnouts. We can't insure your multi-million-dollar company.
Because, if you drive down the freeway, every other billboard is a legal company, and they're looking for you to call them up to get you millions, So, they don't just put them billboards up just because they're nice. I mean, it's just how the world is that we live in now. So it's
another story from the 1900s. I remember a time if you had a disagreement with somebody, you go beat their ass and be okay, and you just move on. You didn't have to get a lawsuit for I think we should go back to being able to whoop somebody's ass when they need it.
An eye for an eye.
Yeah.
So I had an opportunity to take the 2-seater to Woodward and Roadkill Nights and give rides and do all that. Like, we were going to do that, and I was really excited about it because it's like, that Finnegan and Freiberger, they put that event on, and they've had Leah with doing burnouts with her Top Fuel car, and Matt Hagan with his funny car, and Dodge sponsors this thing, and it's like all this awesome stuff. And then I talked to my insurance guys, and they're like, yeah, like, that's not a real racetrack. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it's like, well, we can't tell you not to do it, but like, come renewal time, we might just not renew. Like, that's not a sanctioned facility. It's not under the best of conditions. Again, you have to, and I don't want to, I don't know how many insurance.
She thought you were going to tell a story about you were beating somebody's ass and beating somebody up, but no, he told me that story, and I don't know.
Oh, okay, we're keep that off record. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, and it's like, all I was going to say is I don't know how many insurance companies would insure a 2-seat Top Fuel car. I've only had one. I've only needed one, so I'm just gonna. So that's why you never saw videos of our car at Roadkill Nights, in case anybody's wondering.
So we talked about the 2-seater. I want to bring up another not fun part of your driving career. You've had a blowover before, correct?
Well, not a blowover where the whole car.
Okay.
Like Don Garlitz has done, Eddie Hill, a few of the Don Perdome has done. I've had like where the car literally, the chassis breaks in half.
Oh, that's
the head
right.
of the cockpit breaks in half, and then kind of twice. I think there's been a half dozen of them, and I've got 2 of them. So
that's not a good thing to brag about. That's not a good percentage. So what were they older chassis, or was it just a freak accident?
It's definitely not older chassis. I'm going to say in both instances, they were cars that had less than 75 runs on them. And I've made runs in cars at Alan Johnson's over 150 runs and nothing happened. So, and had 200 plus run seasons and not had any of that happen. No, I think it's the design of the cars. It's the well, let's start like in my case with the front half. I mean, if you ask 20 people, you're going to get 20 different opinions, and this is going to be my opinion. This isn't gospel. This is my opinion. But, these cars that got built, like maybe like the first rear engine car, Don Garlitz, right? He's got builds the first rear engine car in 1971, and he's got like 049 chromoly tubing on the front of the cars, but his car is 240 inches long, and it only weighs like 1,300 pounds. Well, like now add, 5 feet to the front of the cars, make the cars over 1,000 pounds heavier, add over 10,000 horsepower.
Now stickier tires, bigger tires, more traction.
Yeah, they go 100 mile an hour faster, and they're still using the same 049 tubing, for that. It's it doesn't take a lot for bad things to happen. And in both cases, in my case, hitting a bump on the racetrack, if the car's in line and it arches, everything's great. But what happens is, it's like in both cases, hit a bump in the racetrack, and it kind of like almost, because the car's flexible enough, it'll give a little give left to right, and it's only got to give a little bit like that, and it'll fold in half like a paper straw. And that's literally what happened. When everything's in line, it's great, but then if it gets a little out of line, it collapses, and that's what happened in both cases with me.
So it's almost like, remember in like physics class, you take an empty Pepsi can and you can stand on it. But if you twist one way or the other, it'll fold down on you. So it's almost like that philosophy, right? You get a little going on a little twist. Not every time, but that's kind of how my mind works, I guess. So.
Not every time. In more cases than not, like if you look at all the cars that have had, because I've had it happen twice. I think Phil Lamatina down in Australia's had it twice. Tony Schumacher once. Leah Pruitt had it happen. And in every case, bumps on the racetrack, and it just upsets the car. And it's like, well, like how do you, we got to fix these tracks so it doesn't do that. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it'd be, in a perfect world, that'd be nice. But also, like, how about you need to make the car a little more forgiving than that, So, and then there's been, battles with the teams on, well, let's just, make the tubing thicker. Oh, God, nobody wants to take a chance on them messing up their setup or their tune-up, and how the car works. We want to leave it the same. And, a lot of these teams have in-house chassis shops. So they, like if the chassis looks like it looks fatigued, they just put a front half on it and carry on. Well, there's a lot of teams, I've never worked for a team that had an in-house chassis shop. So it's like you gotta make your car last. And then when it's time to work, you either got to get a new one or it's just, I don't know. So long story short, I mean, the first one happened in 2000. Leah's happened in 2021, somewhere in that range. And really, like, just this year, they finally went up on a tubing thickness from 049 to 058. And people are still in an uproar over it. And it's like, you're a metal guy, and it's like 049 to 058. Well, the math on it's 9 thousandths, right? And so that's only 4.5 thou per side on the tubing. And there's guys that are like want to strangle you for even thinking that they need to go up on tubing sides, because they've been running this forever. And it's right, they have, but the cars aren't the same. They're not the same weight, the power, the speeds, harmonics, tracks, the whole thing. It's
I seen an interview or something. It was some guy talking about early drag racing, and when they set, I forget what record, but there's like, man, I had a serious conversations with a guy that taught physics in like a big college, and back in the whatever days, probably the era that your dad's car behind you was running. And he says a car will never run over 200 mile an hour in a quarter mile. One, because of aerodynamics, and but that was probably the 60s, and but that was then they come up with aerodynamics and the wings and the flex under the chassis and the better tire compounds and stuff. And now they're running 1,000 foot at over 330 mile an hour. Or
Yeah, they're over 340 now. Like
340, yeah.
So,
yeah. And 1,000 feet,
when we were talking about it, so Don Perdome used to say this, and I think he stole it from Ed Donovan, and it was like, you need to increase the mass to save your ass. Like,
no.
Everything about these cars is bigger, heavier, thicker. I mean, when I started, there was so many parts that were made out of magnesium. There's literally nothing left on these cars that are made out of magnesium. The magnesium isn't strong enough for the power levels to be able. Everything is thick. It's billet. It's forged. It's aluminum. It's carbon fiber. It's gone beyond things that you used to be able to do. You used to be able to win wars with bows and arrows, and you can't win wars with bows and arrows, right? Like there's nuclear activity nowadays. So like we live in a different world. So you either get with the times or get left behind.
Okay, so we're almost an hour in our part 2. I have one more question here. Do you have any more questions for Larry? You have a normal question, but you ask him his event.
Well, we haven't mentioned the name of the chocolate factory.
Chocolade Chocolate Factory.
When we were on the break for letting it upload for our part 2 and we had our potty break, we had a piece of chocolate that's still, because she didn't eat it all on Power Tour.
I might have spent a little bit there.
Yeah, okay. So for the rest of the people that don't go to PRI show or watch some of my posts or anything, my wife bought into a franchise back in 2017. It's the Chocolate Factory, and it's mostly from the Midwest to the East Coast. There's probably a couple dozen of them around the country, and she's got a chocolate store, and it keeps her really, 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 really busy. Because the only thing that really gets shipped in is the chocolate itself, and then it goes in these melters, and then you either mold or dip or whatever, and it's like you walk in the store and it smells like Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And a lot of times she has little cars, or little race cars. It was awesome.
I'm sure she's put you to work during busy times, and you'd be melting chocolate in there, I'm sure, right?
So I get pulled in when something breaks, like whether it's a melter, whether it's whatever it is, mechanical things. I'm the guy. So that she calls on. I'm the cheapest too. So
and she is there all the time. Like, we go at some of the oddest hours, because it's like when we come into town or we're passing through. I was there a week ago Saturday night at 7:00, and she was there.
Only once have we been there that she was not there, and I think that might have been when she was going through her health problems. She wasn't there the day that we happened to go during PRI.
Yeah.
She tries to not go before lunch, because then it's a 12-hour shift instead of an 8-hour shift. So, it's and this happened over TikTok last year. This Dubai chocolate, like the country Dubai, that's what it's called, but it's not from Dubai. So I don't know. So somebody else could probably chime in and tell me why it is, but it's basically this pistachio paste that goes inside of a chocolate bar, and it ended up on TikTok in the end of last year, and it's like Heisenberg on Breaking Bad. Like it's It's crazy. Like, I mean, she makes this, and I've learned that why she does so well with it is because it's like the mix is home makes it, hand makes it, however you want to say, makes it, and then it goes in there and it's better than everybody else's. So she ends up selling it, and it's really expensive because through COVID and everything else, like chocolate's gone up, but like it's got real pistachios in it. Well, pistachios aren't cheap, like, so that goes in it. It's like, and this mix, and it's just like, and then everything's hard to come by, and it's just, but people don't, like, I don't want to say they don't care, but they don't seem to care. Like, I mean, they're not going to the dollar store to get the budget to buy bar. They're like getting the OG real thing. So, that's been crazy.
We were meeting for dinner with all my registration team and Tim. So I picked dinner where I knew was close to the restaurant, and I quickly went in there. Actually, I had somebody drop me off because we couldn't find a parking place. And I ran in and I picked out all this stuff. One of the other girls was helping me, and she was helping another older couple check out, and I had all this stuff on the scale, and she looked over and she goes, "What is all of that?" And then I was like, "Oh man, that's all mine."
But you bought it for the week for the.
I did. Yeah. It was not just for me, but it was for everybody. We, the good guests that we get that come through registration that are just awesome. Every once in a while, they get a little treat. So, but yeah, it's like, oh man.
So I'm a good husband. I want to make sure that. So her store is in Plainfield, Indiana, and like if you want to look her up on Facebook, it's Chocolade Westside Indy. So, and it's SCHAKLOD, I think. Is how it goes. But yeah, you get close enough to that, you'll find it. Chocolade Westside Indy, and so she's near the airport. So you guys have always been great to go in there, PRI or like your power tour or whatever the case. So it's always great to see you guys.
Definitely a huge fan, and I recommend it anytime and every time you're there.
Do you got any more questions?
Even when I'm on a diet and I'm only eating meat.
I've got one more racing question.
Okay, Tim, ask your racing question.
You've worked with some amazing crew chiefs on your time. Who was like the most like genius crew chief? Alan Johnson is amazing. I was always a fan of Dick LaHaye. Like, you've worked for some absolute crew chiefs, not only the teams that you've drove for, but the crew chiefs have absolutely been legendary too.
Lot of Hall of Famers. People literally in the Hall of Fame. Genius. Obviously, Alan Johnson.
Who are the Hall of Famers?
Alan Johnson's. Dale Armstrong.
Okay.
Dick LaHaye. And Alan Johnson. Genius. There's levels of genius. Like what. Alan Johnson, obviously, I mean, a lot of the stuff that goes on with the cars now today, every single one of them is copying something that he's done or he's built or developed on the car. Dale Armstrong, he was a genius. And a lot of the lockup clutch he developed, the race pack, the data logger that's on these cars, the 2 fuel pumps, there's the billet heads, he's developed so much. He's a genius. Dick LaHaye probably didn't do any of the development, but probably absolutely raced smarter and better than any of them for me. And I, that guy, he treated me like one of his kids. I had 6 years with him. I think that, maybe the worst I ever finished with him was third, and when he came on to, Prudhomme had hired him, and they had mutual respect for each other, but they didn't like each other. They learned to like each other and all that. But when LaHaye showed up on our team, he says, you guys have everything it takes to win the championship, but you're not going to do it right away. It's like you have to learn how to race. You have to learn how to win. Everybody, crew, including the driver, including me. And I'm like, I'd never heard it explained that way. And it's like, so the first year he goes to work for us, we finished third in the points, you know. Then the second year, we finished second in the points. And then the third year, we finished first. And then we finished first again. You know, like he was just so, like, he was, I don't know. When he passed away in 2018, it was, that hurt like losing my dad. And and I just went through that again last year. But I've worked with a lot of genius, you know. There, like I said, there's different levels, I think, on all that.
I remember I was always a fan of Dick LaHaye, you know, watching on TV and reading the car magazines and stuff. And you probably remember where I met Dick LaHaye. It was a custom Kemp's event. I think it was in Michigan, because he had some hot rods. Like it was a shoebox Ford mild custom that was actually in custom rodder, that he was on the cover standing by the car. And I met him with that car. And we're at a lead sled traditional car show with white walls everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I just met Dick LaHaye. And all these lead sled guys, they're like, who? They're like, who's that guy with that? I mean, they appreciated his car. I was like, dude, he's into drag racing. And like, he's not just a drag racer. He's like one of the baddest dudes out there, you know? So I remember meeting him at a custom show. Yeah.
He was definitely a hot rodder. I think the last, you know, like, I'm going to say the 15 years or so of his life, maybe 20, you know, he had about a half dozen hot rods, you know, custom cars that he had. And and it seemed like when he'd get that last one done, and then he'd always be searching for the next thing that he wanted to do, and then he'd zero in on it. He'd end up selling one, you know, like the least of the litter, I guess. And then he would take that money and then do the next car. And he just kind of rolled like that all the way till he was done rolling. He was fun. I enjoyed. I learned a lot. He was such a hard ass. But it's like he was exactly like the teacher that you hated in school, because he made you work the hardest. But then when you got all done with it, it was the one that you had most respect, and the one that you loved the most because he taught you the most. And it was like, it was the best thing that you had going. And so that's how LaHaye was for me. And he was great. He taught me, you know, I always said, like, you know, early on, like Don Perdome taught me how to race, and Dick LaHaye taught me how to win, you know, like, I mean, it was just because, like, where he was at in his life, I mean, he was great. I loved the guy.
Cool. All right, so one more thing.
You could probably tell who my favorite was, right? Without me saying.
Yeah, for sure. So you touched on this just a little bit, but you have 3 kids, and you mentioned that your baby that just graduated wants to start his racing career.
Yeah, that's had a lot go on in the last year, you know, and I think, you know, my dad passed away last April, and, you know, like, he had a surgery done and just didn't heal up from it the year before, and it just, like, his health was like kind of a steady decline, and passed in April. But then, like, we go, then we have a funeral for him here, and then we did a celebration of life, because, you know, like, we both grew up in Southern California. He's got a lot of friends, he can't travel and all that, so we ended up doing a celebration of life at the NHRA Motorsports Museum last year, really kind of talking, you know, generationally about the Dixons racing. My grandfather didn't race, but he loved racing. You know, like, going through my dad's stuff, I found a program from my grandpa from 1949. It was a champ car race at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and it's at the same race where Rex Mays ended up crashed because they didn't have seat belts back then, and he flew out of the car and he got run over. But and in this program, he's got like everybody's name and in pencil, and it's like lap times and all this stuff, and it's like I didn't know that about my grandfather. I just knew that he like would help my dad when my dad got going with his 55 and some of that stuff, and like and it's like when they talk about the youth is wasted on the young, and it's like I wish I could have a conversation with my grandfather over that, because he passed away when I was 8. But like I guess where I'm going with that is it's like all these stories are kind of coming out that don't normally get talked about, and then my youngest is like somewhere during the summertime last summer, he's like, Dad, yeah, I think I want to try racing. I'm like, wow, like what? Like he goes with me to all the races, and like I mean he'll bring me up to stage and like all that. He's never raced himself and never talked about junior dragsters or anything like that. And all of a sudden this comes out and it's like, wow, okay, well, you know, that's in summer, and then September he turns 18, and I thought like, well, so I got him for his 18th birthday. I got him a trip to go to Frank Hawley's school down in Florida, drive a Supercomp dragster. So we, you know, during his fall break, we drove down to Gainesville, and he drove, and he did for not having any experience. Like we went out one weekend at IRP to just like go down the track with a street car. So you're learning to like, he's watched him stage, but he hasn't does it. It's different, you know, like, so doing that. Other than that, but he did really good. He drove the car, and I mean the car goes 8 seconds, 180 mile an hour. So like he did really, really good. And so, and then how we're going to tie this all back in. So like we go there, and he does fine. I loved it, you know, like I was proud. And then, you know, there was like somebody that does the social media down there asked like, did I want to like drive while he's driving? I'm like, no way. Like I love watching my boy race, you know, like I want to help him race. I don't need to race, you know, that kind of thing. But then I post about all this stuff on my, when I do post, you know, but on my social media stuff. Well, I ended up posting about it, and a couple that live on the West Coast went into Allie's chocolate store. And so they're talking to her about, you know, like, you know, gosh, you know, it's a long ways away, but we live on the West Coast. But if he ever wants to race, you know, he could race in our car or whatever like that. Well, about that time, Luke comes walking into the store, and when they carry on this conversation, well, they put this whole thing together, and so they don't even need me, but like, which is great, you know, like on that side. So in April. We went and raced at Las Vegas. He did at a double divisional, and went out there. And first race he went out first round, and the next race he went a couple rounds. So like he did all this stuff, and I like me personally, like I loved it, man. It's like I don't care. I'm not this. I swear I'm not like this. You know, I want my kids to race and all that, and it's like. Whatever they do, like I tell my kids, whether it's schoolwork or any other sports, it's like you got our name on your back, so to speak, right? You know, your jersey, and it's like show the name proud, like make it mean something that you care. You know, like try to do whatever you're doing the best of your ability. I don't care if they race or not, and so like that's kind of like where I'm at about that. But he went out there and he had a ball, and I had a ball. So it's like, you know, if I can help him, I will. But
did they let you like dust the tires off after the burnout? They let you do anything like that?
I volunteered to go because it's super comp, not Top Fuel. That I volunteered to go to In-N-Out Burger and get lunch in between sessions, and I love that. And it's like. You know, grinding clutch discs and honing sleeves and lapping valves is way overrated. Being the guy that the lunch guy, I want that job. I really want that job.
I've quoted this before. I'm pretty sure it's the one scene when Paul Walker meets the crew in Fast and Furious, and the one guy. No, it was gone. I think it was Gone in 60 Seconds. I always confused the two at the beginning. Anyway, one of them was like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "Bro, somebody's got to order the pizza."
I want to be the. I've joked about this. It's like, like I want to work in their merchandise trailer. Like
Yeah.
I want to sell their T-shirts. Like so.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's been fun. He's 18. He literally just graduated high school like 2 weeks ago. He's going to college down in Bloomington at IU. So he's got that going. So it's like you kind of have to pick and choose. I mean, the perfect world is that he becomes so successful that he can own and sponsor his own Top Fuel car, and you don't have to figure out
Right.
how to get funding for it, because that car over there sitting just the same for him as it would for me or anybody else. It's like it's got to be funded, man. Like it's a very, very expensive habit, sport, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it has to be funded.
So I guess I do have one more small thing to bring up. We talked the other day. You found your original 55 Chevy, and your plan is, if you can get that car back or get another one, you'd like to recreate your dad's old green 55 Street Racer.
I would. I think that would be, like I'm not a kid anymore, and like I think it'd be fun. That car. I had so many people talk to me about that car, and that car. What happened to that car? Like, so after my dad sells the car because he moves on, right, to other stuff. Like you always have to sell one to get to the next one, and so that's what happened. And that car went through a lot of hands. I don't know if you know Jim Adolph through Power Tour or not. Do you guys know Jim Adolph?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jim Adolph owned that green 55. He owned it at one point in time. Like it might have went directly from my dad to Adolph, but like they worked together at B&M back in the 60s. And when my dad sold the 55, he did. But then Dale Poldy, that raced funny cars, he owned the car for a while. A really I don't know if he's world famous, but Southern California famous painter, George Gray. He owned the car for a while. It went through a bunch of different hands, and then somebody else had it, and the car ended up getting T-boned in an intersection, and it got totaled. And what's really funny about, it's not funny that it got totaled, but well, why didn't they rebuild it? And it's like, because in the mid 70s you could get a 55 Chevy for $12. Like you wouldn't.
Right, yeah.
You wouldn't spend thousands of dollars to fix this car when you can go get another one. Like I talked about my dad buying one for $1,800. Like it's just so the car, the car is, legitimately deceased. And so, but recreating it and that look, I think it'd be fun, because like when I was, my first car, 55, when I was done with it, it went to my dad, because my dad totaled one of his, that green 55 that he got for $1,800. It had a big blower and alcohol and all. It broke a rod, got coolant on the tires, and he totaled it. And so then it went away, and then he just raced with this thing for a while. And then he got my 55, and then he put a motor and trans in it and raced it for a while. And then when he moved back east, he sold it. Well, he ended up selling it to a friend of mine. So there's a chance I could get the car back, and if I did, I would love to do that with the car. And it'd be fun, because I don't know what I would just look at it. Like I don't, like I guess you go to the shows with it, and you do that kind of stuff, or you make it Power Tour worthy, and maybe you drive it, kind of thing. So, but it'd be fun. I mean, a small block car with a 671 on it, and I think it had AFB carburetor.
That's what I see. I've seen doing drag week in it.
Yeah. I really like my Nova, so I don't know. I have the rest of my life to figure it out.
So one more mention: the Nova behind where you're recording, you're putting an LT5 in it. You had an LT4 in it for a while. It looks like a
Yep.
little grandma car. It's white. It's got some chips and some dings and stuff on it, but it's got rally wheels on it. And with the LT4, what did it run in a quarter?
I got in the 980s, 137-ish mile an hour kind of thing, and it's literally I've done like 3 or 4 drag weeks with it, and it's never been on a trailer. Like I drive it to drag week and then drive it everywhere, and then I think one Midwest I went on Midwest drags with it, and I couldn't be gone for 4 days. So like I literally went to all the stops and then went home every day, Midwest drags. So I ended up going 1,200 miles on that Midwest drag. I mean, I went to Norwalk and home for the night. You know, like I went to Edgewater and home for the night. Now all these places and home for the night. And I drove that, and I think on that trip I never even popped the hood. Like I wanted to see if I could go the whole week without even popping the hood. And I love that car. It gets 22 miles to the gallon. It was awesome. And then I had to go take the engine out of it and try to put this LT5 in it. So, but I got an El Camino working on that. I think will be a really good push car for this car to like push start it with. A 69 El Camino SS396 car that I got. I think I saved it from a death because somebody was partying it out for another El Camino. I mean, it came with a protective plate and everything. Like, it's a really nice car, but it doesn't have a motor and trans, so it ain't gonna have the stock one anyway. So I thought I'd make everything about it stock except the LT4 and 4-speed. So I'll put that in it, and that'll be a good power tour car. I want to spend the rest of my life having fun. If I could race with my kid, that'd be fun. And the Nova, the story with the Nova, why I even got the Nova is so my 55, it kept getting wilder to the point where, and this is back before when street racing was frowned upon, but I ended up getting arrested. I had helicopters chase me, got arrested. My car got impounded, like this whole thing with the car. And it's like, okay, this car's too wild for the street. So it's like a track only car now. And it's like, but I need something so I can still have fun on the street. So it's like a friend of mine had this Nova that he drove around until he broke the motor in it. And so it was in it. He had so many cars it wouldn't fit in the driveway. And in California, they have street sweepers, you know, that like you can't park on this side of the street one day because it's a street sweeper, and then on this side. So he kept pushing it for about 6 months. I'm asking if he'll sell it. No. We got tired of pushing this thing back and forth across the street. And then finally he says, fine, I'll sell it. So I ended up buying the car for $700-800 in 1988. Oh, wow. 66. It's not a Virgin. It's not a prom queen because it's had a quarter panel on it. It's had 3 different paint jobs on it. It's never been painted since I had it. That white paint is what it came with. I put a motor and trans in it and went street racing with it. And back then the car would run 12 flat on motor and 11 flat with a little plate unit. And I had a ball. Stock exhaust manifolds. It was just so much fun. And then on one of my, like after Al-Anabi, did an interview with Freiberger, and he talked about drag week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Didn't even know anything about it at the time. Been sheltered on the NHRA tour. And then I'm like, I would love to do that, but that particular package wasn't drag week worthy. So that's where the LT4 came along. We did that and had a ball with it. And so like now we're still having a ball with it. It's just car guy stuff that car guys do, I guess. I don't know. Yep. So still playing with my cars.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
I haven't added any more questions. I'm done with my questions.
Wow.
Anybody you want to thank here before we wrap up?
Thank you guys for wanting to hear this story. I appreciate that. No, my family, you know, like, I mean, everything, I think once I had a family, it felt like it gave my life purpose, you know, like wanting to do, you know, being a part of it and trying to take care of them. And we just, I had a an almost like a mission accomplished moment. Over the weekend, we had the open house for our youngest, and it was like our third one got through high school. Like, and it's like, man, they all made it. Like, it made me feel really, really great. And going back to like what we talked about earlier about your legacy and things like, you know, the trophies and all that stuff. I mean, they get dusty, they get put on a shelf, they get put in a closet and all that kind of stuff. But your kids, your name on your back, like that's the true legacy. And I'm so proud to have a hand in it. Not totally responsible, because Allie's awesome with our kids. You know, I helped. Yes, I'm an associate sponsor. I don't know.
I consider you a friend. We'd say we've known each other, you know, lightly through the years, and we didn't really talk about it. But your wife went through some health issues. You went through some health issues, and I think you guys got through the other side. And I think that has helped the way you look at your life's philosophy of stuff, and don't let things bother you and let things run off your back. It's bad that you went through that, but I think you guys came out on the other side good. And like you said, you've got a great family. Your kids are awesome. Your wife's really awesome, and you're pretty good too. So
I appreciate that. Cancer don't care who it picks on. It's going to pick on everybody, you know. So, but yeah, and I never got mad about it. I never tried to understand why, kind of the whole God thing, and like. There's going to be lessons out of this, and there's going to be perspective, and we've gotten a lot of perspective out of it. And could it be better? Yeah, but it could be so much worse. So I'm so thankful and blessed for what we have, and yeah, we're surviving it, we're making it, and telling the story that you can survive it and make it is, you know, if it helps somebody else. And I've been able to help, and Allie's been able to help people. So we're here for a reason. We'll keep it going.
And sometimes you have some openings. If somebody's looking to have a shop in the Nitro Alley area of Brownsburg, not far from the racetrack, you can contact, was it Dixon Properties, right?
Yeah, you can find. I'm the same guy on social media, so like you can. Yeah, I guess if you are, but we've been full a long time. This area it's. Brownsburg is definitely part of Indianapolis now. And when we moved here 25 years ago, it was a little town all on its own, you know. And now the town of Indianapolis has grown out and past now. So it's got all kinds of stuff going on here. But I'm happy to be here. I didn't know why. Do now.
Go. Well, we want to thank Larry Dixon for being a guest on the Strange Motion Way podcast. And this will be a two-parter. So thanks for tuning in. I've been Tim Strange, interviewing Larry Dixon with
Carrie Strange.
We'll see you at the next one. Did I say that twice?
Thanks, guys. To ask who I am.
Didn't.
The Strange Motion Way podcast, brought to you by
Royal Purple. Premium synthetic motor oils and high-performance chemicals have been designed to improve performance, provide long-term protection, and give you the confidence to push your vehicle to the limit. Royal Purple Premium Synthetic Motor Oils.
Hey, welders, ready to upgrade your gear and save some serious dough in the process? The Miller Build with Blue Savings and Rebate Program has you covered. Find amazing deals and cashback rebates on a wide range of Miller products, from welders to plasma cutters and everything in between, all backed by our 3-year warranty. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Take advantage of the Miller Build with Blue program now. Visit us online or stop by your nearest Miller distributor today to start saving.